I used to think that feeling older was just about stiff joints, a slower step, or forgetting where I left my keys. But one morning, I realized it was something deeper. It wasn't just my body that felt older. It was my spirit. I stopped looking forward to things. I stopped trying new things, and I started saying no more than yes. That, more than anything, made me feel old. But here's the truth. No one told me. Feeling younger is not about turning back the clock. It's not about chasing youth or pretending to be who you were 20 years ago. It's about making a few small intentional changes today that shift how you experience your life. After the age of 60, everything you do carries more weight, more meaning. And sometimes, the tiniest changes can bring back that spark, that energy, that sense of joy you thought was long gone. In this video, I'll share 8 simple things that made a real difference for me. Small steps that helped me feel more alive, more connected, and yes, even a little younger. 1. Start your day with purpose, not a screen. There was a time when the very first thing I did each morning was pick up my phone. Before my feet even touched the floor, I was scrolling through news headlines, checking emails, or reading stories I didn't even care about. And every day seemed to start the same. Overwhelmed, distracted, and somehow already tired before I even had breakfast. I thought I was staying informed or staying connected, but really I was letting other people's noise fill my mind before I had even said good morning to myself. One morning, I paused. I looked at the phone in my hand and thought, why am I letting this tiny screen decide the tone of my day? That was the moment I knew I needed a change. Not a big one, just a small shift in how I begin. Now, the first 15 minutes of my day belong to me. I sit by the window with a cup of tea, breathe deeply, and think about what I'm grateful for. Sometimes I water the plants. Other days, I write a simple sentence in my notebook about how I'm feeling. It's quiet. It's not impressive, but it grounds me. And that tiny change, just 15 minutes of screen-free time, has had a powerful effect on how I move through the rest of my day. I feel calmer. I respond more than I react. My thoughts feel like my own again. I'm not pulled in 10 different directions before the sun is even fully up. If you're over 60, you've lived long enough to know that how you begin your day matters. It sets the rhythm. It affects your energy, your mood, and your mindset. And you don't need a fancy routine. You don't need to wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning or meditate for an hour. You just need a moment that's yours. A moment that says, I matter. My peace matters. My mind deserves a gentle start. So tomorrow morning, try this. Leave the phone alone for just a little while. Look out the window. Listen to the birds. Stretch your body. Say something kind to yourself. Begin with presence, not pressure. You may be surprised at how much lighter the day feels when you start it on your own terms. 2. Move every day, even if it's just 10 minutes. There was a period where I spent most of my days sitting, reading, watching TV, eating, napping. I told myself I was taking it easy, and after all, hadn't I earned it? But over time, I began to feel sluggish. My legs felt stiff. My back ached more than usual. And worst of all, I didn't feel like me anymore. I felt heavy, not just physically, but emotionally too. One afternoon, I walked to the mailbox and noticed I was breathing heavier than usual. It hit me. If this short walk left me winded, what would happen if I ever needed to climb stairs or chase after my grandson? That small moment became a wake-up call. So, I made a promise to myself. I would move every single day, no matter how small the movement. Not to get fit, not to look younger, but to feel alive again. At first, it was just 5 minutes. I walked slowly around the block. I stretched my arms and shoulders while waiting for my tea to steep. I did a few light exercises using a chair for balance. Nothing intense, nothing that hurt. But just enough to feel my body wake up again. And here's the beautiful part. After a week or two, my energy started coming back. My mood lifted. I slept better. I felt stronger, more capable. Not because I had run a marathon or joined a gym, but because I had honored my body with movement. You see, after 60, movement becomes less about performance and more about preservation. It keeps your joints fluid, your heart engaged, and your mind sharp. It reminds you that your body still wants to carry you forward, even if more slowly than before. So don't wait for the perfect time or the perfect routine. Just move. Walk to the end of the street and back. Dance to your favorite old song in the kitchen. Stretch your arms above your head. Bend and breathe. Let your body know you're still here and still willing to take care of it. Because 10 minutes of movement a day might not seem like much, but it's enough to change how you feel, inside and out. 3. Drink more water, less coffee. For years, my mornings started with coffee. Strong, hot, sometimes 2 or 3 cups before noon. I loved the routine of it, the comfort of the taste, and yes, the boost it gave me. But as the years went on, I began to notice something else. I was jittery. My heart raced at times. I had trouble sleeping. My skin felt dry, and no matter how much coffee I drank, I still felt tired. I never considered that I might be dehydrated. Water seemed so plain. It wasn't exciting. It didn't wake me up. But my body was sending signals. Dry mouth, headaches, brain fog. I brushed them off for too long. One day, I read a simple sentence. Your body runs on water, not caffeine. That made me pause. So, I tried something different. I drank a full glass of water before my first sip of coffee. I added a few more glasses throughout the day. 1 mid-morning, 1 in the afternoon, 1 before bed. I didn't give up coffee completely. I still enjoy a cup. But I stopped relying on it as my only source of energy. And slowly, things started to change. My mind felt clearer. My skin looked better. I wasn't reaching for another cup out of habit. I felt more awake, naturally. It turns out, as we age, our sense of thirst dulls. That means we often don't drink enough water because we don't feel as thirsty. But the need is still there. Every cell in your body, from your brain to your muscles, depends on it. So here's the small shift. Keep a glass or bottle of water nearby. Drink a glass first thing when you wake up. Add a slice of lemon or cucumber if it helps. Set a gentle reminder if needed. Make water part of your rhythm. Because staying hydrated isn't just good for your body, it's good for your mood, your energy, your clarity. It's one of the easiest and most powerful ways to feel more alive. And yes, even younger. Speak kindly to yourself. For most of my life, I thought the way I spoke to myself didn't matter. I would forget something and say, "You're so stupid." I'd move a little slower and joke, "You're getting useless." I'd look in the mirror and think, "You're not what you used to be." I said these things casually, like they were harmless. But over time, they started to shape how I felt, not just about aging, but about who I was becoming. One day, I caught myself saying, "I'm just an old burden now." The words came out of nowhere. But once I heard them, really heard them, I felt a deep ache in my chest. I would never speak that way to someone I loved. I'd never call my brother, my friend, or my grandchild useless or a burden. So why was I saying it to myself? That was the moment I realized how powerful our inner voice is, especially as we get older. The world may not always speak kindly to us. Advertisements, media, even some people around us may act like aging means fading. But if we start to believe that story and repeat it to ourselves, it becomes truth in our hearts. So I began a small experiment. Every time I noticed myself saying something cruel inside my mind, I paused and replaced it with something gentle. If I forgot where I put my keys, instead of calling myself dumb, I said, "It happens to everyone." If I looked in the mirror and felt discouraged, I'd say, "You've lived a full life, and it shows, and that's beautiful." It felt strange at first, a little awkward, even silly. But after a while, something shifted. I began to walk taller. I smiled more at myself. I didn't feel younger in the physical sense, but I felt lighter, less weighed down by shame or self-judgment. Here's the truth. Kindness matters, especially when it comes from within. Your body may have changed. Your pace may be slower. But the way you speak to yourself can either lift you up or pull you down. Try this today. Look in the mirror, really look, and say one good thing to yourself. Just one. Say, "You are still valuable," or "You are doing your best," or simply, "I'm proud of you for showing up." It might feel odd, but it might also be exactly what your heart needs to hear, because you've been through enough. You've carried enough. You deserve to be your own source of kindness now. 5. Wear clothes that make you feel good. There was a stretch of time when I stopped caring about what I wore. Sweatpants, baggy shirts, mismatched socks, whatever was comfortable and easy. I told myself it didn't matter. I wasn't going to any fancy events. No one was watching. Who did I have to impress? But then one day I caught a glimpse of myself in the mirror before heading out to the store. I looked tired. Not just physically, but tired of myself. And that moment hit me harder than I expected. It wasn't about the clothes. It was about what they were saying, and what I was allowing them to say. Our clothes, whether we admit it or not, speak. They tell a story about how we feel inside. And for me, they were saying, "I don't care anymore." That wasn't the story I wanted to tell. So I made a small change. I picked out a button-down shirt I used to wear on Sundays, pressed it, tucked it in, put on a clean pair of jeans. Nothing fancy, just something that felt intentional. I looked in the mirror, and I saw someone who still cared, someone who still showed up for life. And when I went to the store, I noticed people smiled at me more. But more importantly, I smiled at me more. Now, I'm not saying you need to dress up every day or follow fashion trends, but I am saying this. Wear something that makes you feel like you still matter, because you do. Whether it's a shirt that fits just right, a necklace that makes you feel elegant, or shoes that make your steps feel solid, let your clothes remind you of your dignity. Let them carry your confidence. Even on the days when you're not feeling your best, clothes don't define your worth, but they can reflect it. And you're never too old to feel proud of the way you show up in the world. So tomorrow, when you get dressed, pause for just a moment. Ask yourself, does this make me feel like me? If not, choose something else. Something that says, I'm still here, I still care, and I still deserve to feel good. Because the truth is, how we dress has the power to lift our spirit. And at this stage of life, joy in small things is more than enough. 6. Learn one new thing each week. There was a time I thought learning was something you only did in school. That once you retired, once you'd lived through 6 or 7 decades of life, the learning part was mostly over. You had your stories, your lessons, your wisdom. You'd earned your rest. But what I didn't realize was this. When I stopped learning, I slowly stopped feeling alive. It didn't happen overnight. It was gradual. My days began to feel repetitive. I watched the same shows, ate the same meals, talked about the same topics. There's comfort in routine, yes. But too much of it can turn into mental fog. My mind didn't feel sharp anymore. I wasn't curious. I wasn't engaged. And I missed that version of me. The one who asked questions, explored, tried. Then one day my grandson asked me, "Grandpa, do you know how to draw a horse?" I laughed and said, "Not even close." He handed me a pencil and said, "Try." And for the first time in a while, I did. I tried. It wasn't good, but it was fun. And for those 10 minutes, I wasn't thinking about my sore knees or the bills on the counter. I was focused, in the moment, curious again. That small moment reminded me that learning doesn't stop when the calendar says you're old. In fact, that's when learning becomes even more meaningful. Not because we have to, but because we choose to. So I made it a habit. Each week, I'd learn something new, not big things. Not college courses or complicated textbooks, just something small. I watched a video about how to grow tomatoes in a pot. I looked up how to make French toast a new way. I practiced a few words in Spanish, just to stretch my mind. And slowly, I felt my brain wake up. I felt more connected to the world again. Here's what I've learned. Your brain loves new things, even little ones. They don't have to be useful. They just have to be interesting. You don't have to become an expert. You just have to stay open. Maybe for you, it's learning how to take better pictures with your phone. Maybe it's trying a new recipe. Maybe it's learning the name of a bird you keep seeing in your backyard. Whatever it is, let it spark something in you. Let it remind you that there's still more to discover about the world and about yourself. Because the truth is, when we stop learning, we start shrinking. But when we stay curious, we grow. Not taller or younger, but wider in heart, richer in thought, more connected to the life that's still unfolding around us. You don't need to chase big goals. Just pick one new thing each week, one small thing that says, "I'm still here. I still care. I still want to know more." And trust me, that's all it takes to start feeling younger, not in years, but in spirit. 7. Laugh more, even if it's just a silly video. There was a time when laughter felt far away. I wasn't unhappy, exactly, just flat. Days passed quietly. I kept up with the news, paid my bills, did what needed to be done. But joy? The kind that made me laugh out loud, eyes squinting, belly moving? That felt like a distant memory. I used to laugh all the time, at corny jokes, at my kids making faces at the dinner table, at sitcoms with laugh tracks and silly neighbors. But somewhere along the way, the laughter faded. Maybe because life got heavier. Maybe because I thought grown-ups weren't supposed to laugh like that anymore. Then one day, my daughter sent me a video, just a short clip of a baby laughing uncontrollably while trying to eat a banana. I rolled my eyes, but I clicked play. And for some reason, that little baby's laugh hit me right in the chest. I smiled, then chuckled, then. Before I knew it, I was laughing. Alone in my kitchen like a fool, and I felt lighter, like I had just released something I didn't know I was holding in. That's when I realized laughter isn't just entertainment. It's medicine. It softens the edges of a hard day. It brings oxygen into places that have gone stiff and tired. It connects us to the moment, to ourselves, to each other. And here's the best part. Laughter doesn't need a reason. You don't need to wait for something worthy to laugh about. You can find it in the absurd, the silly, the everyday messes that make life real. Since then, I've made laughter a part of my routine. Sometimes I rewatch a favorite comedy scene I've seen a dozen times. Sometimes I call a friend who always has a dry, sarcastic story to share. Sometimes I laugh at myself, at how long it took me to find my glasses that were on my head the whole time. It doesn't take much, just a willingness to let go for a moment, to not take everything so seriously, to allow yourself to be light again. And no, it doesn't mean ignoring the hard stuff. Life at this age comes with real challenges. We've all been through our share of loss, aches, and quiet disappointments. But laughter doesn't erase that. It balances it. It gives your heart a break. It lets your spirit breathe. So if you've forgotten how to laugh, or if it's been a while since something made you smile, consider this your gentle reminder. It's okay to laugh. It's good to laugh. It's necessary. Put on a funny movie from the 80s. Scroll past the angry news and find a video that makes you giggle. Share a joke, even a bad one. Let yourself laugh out loud even if no one's around, because when you laugh, you're not just reacting, you're living. And every time you do, you turn the clock back, not on your body, but on your soul. 8. Spend time with people who make you feel alive. There's something that happens as we get older. Our circles shrink. People move away. Friends grow distant. Some leave this world. And suddenly, the calendar gets quieter. Fewer phone calls. Fewer dinner invitations. Fewer reasons to leave the house. At first, it feels like rest. But after a while, it starts to feel like disappearance. I didn't notice it right away. I thought I was just enjoying the peace. But one evening, as I sat eating dinner alone for the third night in a row, I realized something. I wasn't lonely because I had no one to talk to. I was lonely because I wasn't talking to the right people. You see, not all company is good company. I've spent time around folks who drained me. People who only wanted to talk about what's wrong with the world, who complained constantly, who saw age as a reason to stop dreaming. And after enough time with them, I started to feel the same. I felt heavy, flat, tired in a way that sleep couldn't fix. Then one day, I had lunch with an old friend I hadn't seen in years. She was in her 70s, just like me, but she was alive in a way that felt contagious. She talked about the book club she joined, the silly dog she just adopted, the new soup recipe she burned, and still laughed about. I didn't even realize I was smiling so much until my cheeks hurt. That lunch reminded me, we don't just need people, we need the right people. The ones who bring us back to life. The ones who ask us real questions, who laugh with us, who listen, who care. The ones who see us not as old, but as still becoming. Since then, I've made it a point to be more intentional with my time. I reach out more. I say yes when a neighbor invites me for a walk. I call my cousin just to check in. I sit longer with people who make me feel seen and valued, and I spend less time with those who don't. And here's something else I learned. You don't need a crowd. Just one or two people who light you up is enough. Connection doesn't have to be constant, but it does need to be meaningful. So think about the people in your life. Who makes you feel energized after talking to them? Who makes you laugh? Who helps you see things differently? Make space for them. And if you don't know who that is right now, that's okay. Be open. Try joining something local, a book group, a gardening club, a volunteer team. Someone out there is hoping for connection too, because at the end of the day, we weren't meant to go through life alone, especially not this chapter. And the beautiful thing is, when you find the right people, you don't just feel younger, you feel alive. Stop thinking your best days are behind you. There's a quiet belief that can settle into our minds as we grow older, a whisper that says, your best days are behind you. It doesn't shout. It doesn't argue. It just quietly suggests that the big moments are over, that the rest of life is about slowing down, watching from the sidelines, staying out of the way. I believed that for a while. I thought the laughter, the discovery, the excitement, the newness, that was for younger folks. I told myself I had already lived the good stuff. I looked back at old photos, old memories, and thought, that was the life. I stopped expecting joy to show up. I stopped looking forward. I stopped feeling like anything ahead could compare to what had already passed. But one morning, I sat outside with a cup of coffee and watched the sun rise slowly over the trees. The light was soft, the air cool, and for some reason, it moved me. Not because it was extraordinary, but because I noticed it. And in that moment, something clicked. Maybe my best days weren't behind me. Maybe they were different now. Not louder, not bigger, but deeper. Since then, I've started seeing life not as winding down, but as shifting. The energy is gentler now, but the meaning is richer. The conversations are slower, but they're more real. The connections I make now are not about proving anything. They're about simply being present. There are still firsts waiting for you. The first time you try something new. The first time you see something from a different angle. The first time you feel truly at peace with yourself. These are not lesser moments. They are sacred in their own right. Too often, we think youth is the only time worth celebrating. But I've come to believe that aging is not about losing wonder. It's about learning how to see it again in quieter, humbler ways. And that, in itself, can feel like a second youth. So, here's my invitation to you. Don't write yourself out of your own story. Don't let nostalgia be the only lens you use to view your life. Yes, treasure the past. Hold those memories close, but leave space in your heart for what's still to come. Because your best days, they're not behind you. They're in every choice you make to stay present, to stay open, to stay alive, even now, especially now.